And welcome to TI Now's NFV series. On this segment, we're talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of NFV orchestration and automation. We're joined by Prodip Sen. He's the Chief Technology Officer of Network Functions Virtualization over at Hewlett-Packard. And Prodip, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. I want to talk about orchestration and automation regarding network functions virtualization, really talking about coordination, scaling, installation, configuration capabilities. But in doing that, I want to pose this first question to you. Can you leverage NFV without the complication of orchestration?
So I don't think of orchestration as a complication, but an enabler. It's really what allows us to implement NFV in the manner we want. It's essentially about automation. A lot of the things which we have to do with networks today involve a lot of manual operations. People have to go in, log in, and do various things to make the networks work, operate, change, whatever. And the whole idea around NFV, SDN, all of these software-defined approaches is about trying to increase the level of automation. And orchestration is just one level of that in the network, which is trying to do orchestration of resources or orchestration of services. All that means is trying to get the right things for the right job to enable the whole service. And so without orchestration, I don't think we would be able to do NFV in the way we want. And the scaling and the flexibility we need when we implement NFV would not be possible without orchestration.
Now, Prodip, orchestration enablements, as you say, or even complications, do they vary in a hybrid environment?
Yes, so all the things we're developing with respect to orchestration have to do with the virtualized functions or software functions, which we can manage through orchestration. The physical elements, the network equipment of the past, which is still there in everyone's networks, the existing service providers have a lot of this physical equipment. They're not going away. So we're not starting, in most cases, we're not starting in a greenfield environment, and we have to bridge the gap between those physical elements and the new virtual elements. So that's where the complications lie, because the old physical elements are not really suitable for orchestration. They are most often, they don't expose software-based APIs. They have to go in manually through a console or through CLI commands. You can write scripts, you can automate, but it's not natural to do it there. So what has to happen is we have to be able to write different kinds of software, scripts, other things which partially automate these physical elements and bridge the gap between the physical and the virtual. So that's a complication which lies ahead, and it's something we have to deal with because, as we said in the beginning, that we're not starting in a greenfield environment. Most of the time, we have to have a service which spans physical and virtual equipment.
Now, Prodip, are there situations or maybe an example you can give of when automation just won't be possible?
So I think what I just said, that in most cases when you're starting with physical equipment which has not been automated, we will be living in this world of things not being automated in the transition from the current world to the place we all want to get to, where everything is software defined. Automation, it's not that automation won't be possible, it's that it'll take time to automate all the things we need to, and especially when we're trying to bridge the legacy with the new software defined entities, and that's where we will have to live without without automation in some parts, and it'll have to be done manually. So I think it's more of a transition than something which will never be possible.
Now, of course, staying with the topic of NFV orchestration and automation, how will the rise of IoT and really the evolution of 5G play a part in that?
So the main thing which the IoT and the explosion of the devices which we're seeing and the capabilities and services which are evolving, the main thing with that and the evolution of 5G, which will come to wireless networks, are scale and speed. So essentially, the scale of things is expanding tremendously. Number of devices, number of people, the amount of mobility, higher speeds, higher bandwidths. So everything has to be faster, has to change quicker, and all of that is what things like SDN and NFV enable. So these are the challenges which are really what SDN and NFV are being developed to address. So they are complications, but that's why we've embarked on this journey of SDN and NFV, because with those techniques, we can build networks which are more flexible, which can adapt to large scale devices, large scale of subscribers, and large changes dynamically in the network. So I think SDN and NFV are precisely enable the challenges which IoT and 5G place. And one thing to remember is that in the existing network, the core network of the underlying, for example, the optical transport network, the other core transport network, the core IP transport network, those don't change. Those don't need to be virtualized or software defined, and they carry the underlying bulk of the traffic. What happens with the whole approach to virtualization and software defined is you change things at the edge, at the subscriber edge or the user edge and the service edge, and that's where you build the software defined network, which is sort of sitting on top of, if you will, the underlying transport. And so for a long time we will live with this, with the rise of IoT and 5G, as you get to higher speed, higher scale, those underlying networks, those underlying physical networks will increase in scale and capacity and all of that. But what we do with this virtualized wrapper around it is we create the flexibility to allow changes to happen rapidly. And that's what we need as we go forward in the future.
Now, you touched a little bit on really the potential enablement of NFV orchestration and automation, but there's some talk in the industry about when we can really expect a fully virtualized network. Can you put a timeline to that, or is it more of a fluid process?
It is fluid, and it's full virtualization is a long way off, and the simple reason for that is that most of the service providers, large and medium ones, who've been around for a while, have a lot of network equipment in their networks. They're not going to throw it away and replace everything. So everyone will go through a transition. So the virtualization and the journey to the software-defined network, or as we like to call it, the journey to the cloud, the cloudified network, is a journey. It'll take a while, and things will happen gradually along the way. So full virtualization, full software-defined operation is a way off, but what will happen is we'll start to see that happening, implemented right now. Already there are trials and there are small deployments which are happening now, and next year that's going to start up in a bigger way because there are many people who are doing large trials, who are trying out various things, who are already trying out some services in pockets. So we think that this will start to pick up next year and then accelerate. And we will see it not through the entire network at one time. We'll see it in pockets and segments of the network, or for service segments. And that's how this will get introduced into the network. One of the beauties of the software-defined approach and the virtualization approach is that you can create services for segments of the user base, or customers for these networks, and that segment doesn't have to be geography based. Today, when we offer services in the old telco networks, it's all based on geography. If I build out a certain area, everyone in that area can get those kinds of services. But with the virtualized world, I don't need to do that. I can create a logical slice throughout my network by seeding virtual elements through the network and connecting them up and offering a segment of the population service they need. So when we say it'll be in pockets and segments, that's not limited by geography. It's really limited by the kind of services, the kind of customers you want, and the kind of services you want to support.
Prodip, it's great to have you on the TI Now's NFV series. We just started the series in 2016. You're the first of a handful of guests. So we would like to have you on again very soon. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking.
Thank you, Prodip. And to our viewers, for more on TI Now's NFV, 5G, and IoT series, you can go to tinow.org for all the on-demand content.